Careers the Next Generation is a very unique private-public sector partnerships. It's industry-led, but if you look even at the board level, we have 5 deputy ministers on there, plus now we have 15 senior executives from different industrial and community sectors right across the province. So first of all, it's an entity that has senior people who can set policy. But the other reality that I learned the hard way probably is if you really want to make change, not that you have to have the policy setting at the top, but you need to be on the ground right out in the community. And so we have a staff of about 25 or 30 very dedicated, motivated people who are just out in the classrooms all across this province. We're now in 373 high schools, over 250 communities. Last year alone, we put 41,000 high school kids through career workshops. And if you count the health camps we run and the trades camps we run and the career fairs, we actually reached over 70,000 of our young Albertans last year. So, and so we work in there, and basically the message we're trying to get across to the young people is, look, there's many exciting careers out there. And yes, some of them do require university education, and we're not anti-university, obviously, but not all of them require a university education, but they do require a good education, because even a skilled tradesperson, I shouldn't say even, but a skilled tradesperson has the equivalent of 2 years of post-secondary by the time they get their apprenticeship. So what we're trying to do is saying, you know, you need to get a good education, so listen to your teacher, but we also make the workplace an extension of the classroom, and so we place them. We have over 1,130 employers now that place these kids in work experience. You know, we use the registered apprenticeship program for a lot for the trades interns. We've developed internships and career pathways for health that works through the career and technology studies pathway in education, and so we do that universally across the province. But then in particular communities, we'll go in and mobilize communities. Like we have big programs going on in Fort McMurray, Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, Red Deer, and we're just going into Grand Prairie now. And there we will also develop pathways that suit the local economy. So if you're in Fort McMurray, we have 7 other pathways beside the trades. And by the way, the trades is 50 different occupational trades. Wow. And then there's health and health care. We identified almost 200 career pathways in the health system. So those are just 2. And then we have 7 others in Fort McMurray that relate just more specifically to oil sands and that. They're not limiting. You can transfer that experience to other industries. And then if you're in Lethbridge or Medicine Hat, of course, it'll be oil and gas and agri-food industry. In Red Deer, there's a lot to do with petrochemicals. And as we move into Grand Prairie, we're into forestry, oil and gas, and agriculture. And then we actually have another area where if we see a need, we work with industry very closely in that, and our Aboriginal program. And so we've got a few innovative ones where we've created new courses working with the SAITs and NAITs of the world. And one was the production field operator. And these are, and we're now just piloting power engineering and health aid programs. And these are very innovative programs. So while the kids are going to high school, they're actually getting partial credits towards college degrees. So they're joint, but they meet a need. The production field operator was really driven by Encana. As what was happening is, you know, they have a number of drilling contractors, but the contractors weren't taking on the young Aboriginal kids. And the reason was not because they were Aboriginal, but they had no training or background, and they said to Encana, you want us to be as cost effective as we can, so if you could get the right training for these ones. So we went to SAIT and said, what can you do? And so SAIT responded. Irene Lewis and her team are great, and we developed the production field operator thing, and it's now spread across the province, and it's not an Aboriginal program anymore. But it fills a need. And power engineering, with all the work going on in power plants and, you know, the carbon capture and storage and gasification and that, there's a great need for power engineers and process operators. So we've worked with industry and the educational institutes and developed that, and we with NAIT and piloted it last year. And then the health care aid program we've developed with Norquest, because you don't need full, we're going to be short of fully qualified nurses and doctors, but you don't necessarily always need the fully qualified person. You could provide a lot more career opportunities for people who don't maybe have the full education of a nurse who could do a lot of the work. And so we've been developing this health care aid with Alberta Health Services, and we piloted it last year and it's very successful. So it's kind of a unique model. How I got interested in it, it actually goes back to 1989, and I was chairing the education committee for the Chamber of Resources, and we noticed the economy was heating up, so we did what could be called roughly a supply-demand skill balance for the province with the government, and boy, that's when our eyes got opened wide, and skilled trades was one that came through to me the most, and there I found that the average age of a skilled tradesperson in Alberta was 47, and in some of the key trades it was in the 50s, and what really blew me away was, and this was the time when youth unemployment was the big thing, was the average age of a first-year apprentice in Alberta was 27. So young people who missed out on this as a great career opportunity totally. They really looked at it as a career of last resort. You went there after, if you've tried everything else and didn't like it, well, I might as well try a trade. And so, so that was, if you could imagine putting that in context for me, 1989, I'd just come in as CEO of Syncrude, and I was just beginning to think about how can we get oil sands development going. And, all of a sudden we were going to run into a problem just through retirements. And if we didn't get this raised as a business issue from the business community, that the need to get more young people pursuing the trades, and we also found the same in science and technology, at the higher end, then we were not going to reach our full economic potential, because you could look at the demographics. So basically, it was devastating for me as CEO of Syncrude, because I was thinking of oil sands development. If we didn't fix this, we could kiss oil sands development goodbye. So it's amazing. Today, everybody talks about the fiscal regime and things like that as being the key that enabled the oil sands. And it was very helpful, but there was many other things. But I would say this was the biggest, because today we have over 10 times as many apprentices as we did in 1989. We have over 66,000 apprentices in this province, and it's one of the best apprenticeship programs anywhere. We have almost 25% of all of Canada's apprentices, even though we're 9% of the population. So, and when we had the economy going hot there last few years, we were still short of tradesmen. But think what would have happened if we hadn't started that back in that whole shift in 1989. Yeah. So it took me from 89 to, we tried different things to bring this issue in front of business people and get people energized. So we just evolved into careers. It's kind of I won't bore you with the whole story how we got there, but we finally had the model figured out by 1995, and I thought I had a lot of supporters, but everybody was paying me lip service with what to get any money. There was no money, so Syncrude agreed that with the government we had a few senior executives who were about to try retire from Syncrude, plus our Catholic school superintendent, who still works on careers next generation to this day. And we said, okay, just 3 of us. We'll demonstrate what we can do with just 3 people for 2 years, and we'll pay for the pilot. And of course, we were into 13 communities by then, and we had things going, and then people became believers, and Careers was formed in 1997 with the structure, in those days it was 5 deputies and 5 senior executives. Now it's 5 deputies and 15, because we just think it's more important to get the exposure across the province of community leaders. But so it's been a fun story. Yeah. And every year, this is the first year we placed fewer interns, RAP students, registered apprenticeship students, because construction activity fell off so much. But we were only down by 18%, so it could have been a lot more. Our team worked really hard to place as many kids as they could. And on the health side, despite all the cutbacks, we were able to maintain the level of interns there. So I'm quite proud of that. The true limit is getting more and more employers that are willing to take young people on work experience, and so we're focused at that end. We're trying to recruit, and we've been quite successful at. We're on a very sustainable funding basis because we now have many sponsors from the industry community. It wasn't always that way, believe me.